let's wrap up October. All right, guys. Hello. Hi. Welcome back. Welcome if you're new. In October, I participated in 2 readathons. Now, you might be saying, Trinity, why the heck did you do this? You've already promised yourself no more readathons. So what happened? I can explain a little bit because there was like 2 readathons I told you guys that I would likely still participate in, even though I was putting myself on a readathon ban, and that would be Becca's Bookopoly. So Becca changed everything and did a Spookopoly board, did it in a different month. And that happened to line up with Jake and Stacy's Discord running a Stephen King Clue readathon. And basically they told me, all you have to do is read these books for the prompts. Like, there's no other expectations. Like, if it falls into any of these prompts, it counts and you get clues and everything like that. They explained it that way. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm already doing a readathon, so maybe I can just make the books line up for both. And that's what I tried to do. So I was successful. I think I had 2 that pertain specifically to the Stephen King readathon, and then everything else kind of lined up for both of them. Okay, in the month of October, I read 17 books, bringing us to 6,145 pages read. Of those 17 books, I DNF'd 3. Now, you guys know that I count the pages read from what I DNF'd. I'm not counting the book, but I am counting the pages that I did actually read. In October, I read 2 science fiction, 1 romance, 1 historical fiction, 4 horror, and the rest were fantasy. I am still trending towards female authors. I will always probably trend towards female authors. I am still sitting at well over 50% of my reading being fantasy, but I do like that this month was much more sprinkled with other things. Like, there were other things just spread throughout the readathon. Definitely really enjoyed my return to horror, but I have to say I didn't get bogged down this month, even though all of those stats seem like a lot. I know readathons, I push myself, I'm highly competitive, and it comes out in me with all of this, and I can't really stop myself. But I'm pretty dang excited that my reading month went as well as it did. All right, now let's go ahead and get into the star ratings and the books that I read. Her Majesty's Royal Coven, I gave 2 stars. From Bad to Cursed by Lana Harper, I gave 4 stars. The Hurricane Wars, I gave 5 stars. Dead Silence, I gave 4.5 stars. Savage Legion, I gave 4.5 stars. Rise of the Mages by Scott Drakeford, I DNF'd. The Wolf by Leo Carew, I gave 4 stars. Those Once Forgotten by N.C. Scrimger, I NFN'd. Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valenti, I gave 4 stars. Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, I DNF'd. The Path of Thorns by A.G. Slatter, I gave 5 stars. The Traitor Queen by Danielle L. Jensen, I gave 4.5 stars. Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson, I have NFN'd. A Shadow Crown by Melissa Blair, I gave 3.5 stars. Butcher and Blackbird, I gave 5 stars. Trouble the Saints, I DNF'd. And As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, I gave 5 stars. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the disappointments. I'm not going to talk about the books that I NFN'd simply because I will have another video where I return to my shame pile because it is starting to get high. The disappointments that I had this month would definitely have to be Rise of the Mages by Scott Drakeford. Now, I had been really hyped for this book by a couple of my friends, and I'm not going to say that like they don't have good taste. That book's not my taste. It is kind of slow and it's very confusing. I really found a lot of it just not to my personal taste, and so I ended up DNFing it. I don't think it's a bad book, but my friend who was going to buddy read it with me had the same issues, And so I just kind of feel like that's probably just not a book that was written to my taste. Now, one thing that I have to say about Rise of the Mages is that the person who recommended it to me told me the world building and the magic system were really cool. They weren't lying. They were right. But I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't get invested in it. Now, Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, I could say the same thing. I did not find this book interesting. I know that this is a very highly rated fantasy novel, and I just couldn't get into it. The magic's cool. The setting is really cool. The way that the magic works is really cool, but I don't know. There's something about the pacing of T. Kingfisher's fantasy that I really don't like. There's something about the way she writes fantasy that I don't really like. And I have to say, it could very well just be that I love her horror so much and her fantasy is so different. I'm wanting the books that she writes in a horror lens, not the ones that she writes in the fantasy lens. So it could just be I'm looking for something else when I pick up T. Kingfisher, and I should probably just avoid her fantasy in the future. I did like Thornhedge, but there's a lot of her fantasy that I just really don't like. And a lot of people want to call her writing gothic. I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. She writes too simplistically to be gothic. And I'm not saying that her books are not good, and I'm not saying that she's not a good writer. Just let's be clear with that, because yes, I love her horror so much. I just don't think that she has that flow that the Gothic authors have. And then Trouble the Saints, I think this is another expectation not meeting reality. And I was really looking forward to this because it has a very similar synopsis to The Diviners by Libba Bray. So I was kind of hoping that we'd get like an adult version of The Diviners, and that's not what happened. And so it was a little boring, and it was really confusing for like the first couple chapters, because really didn't know what was going on. And the magic that is used in Trouble the Saints is never really explained. You're expected to know. Like, this is a very culturally driven story, and if it's not your culture, you're not going to get it. So I was like, okay, well, I was kind of expecting to be taught how this works or shown how this works or something to figure this out, but no, it's just explained like you should already know exactly what's going on. And I'm like, you didn't do your job, book, because I still don't know what's going on. The other disappointment for me would have to be my 2-star review or reading of Her Majesty's Royal Coven, and I want to be very clear on why I am giving this 2 stars. So this has a great discussion on transgender people. And I think that it's a very important discussion. I think that Juno Dawson tackles it very well. However, I am a stickler for writing, and I really did not like the writing style in Her Majesty's Royal Coven. I did not like it at all. There was nothing that appealed about the writing style to me. I'm not rating this low because of the transgender discussions in the book, because I've seen a lot of people get hate for rating the book low because the transgender discussions are excellent in the book. But for me, writing style, there were moments that didn't seem really all that plausible to me throughout the book. We never really met the big bad, so the intrigue built to nothing. And I really didn't like any of that about the book. And then there were so many British pop references that I think a lot of Americans are going to kind of be thrown by how many British pop references there are, because there were some I didn't know. Obviously, the Spice Girls, we know really well in America, but it started to grate on my nerves after a while. But then the ending, it was a 3-star throughout, where I was like, this is fine, this is fine. Then the ending happened. No, I am not for that ending at all. I hate that ending, and I wish I would have never read that book because of that ending. So do with that what you will, because I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. But I got to that point and I was like, I suffered through that writing for that? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And then I do have to talk a little bit about another disappointment of mine, and you guys might be a little surprised, seeing as how I rated this 4 stars on Goodreads and 3.5 here. A Shadow Crown by Melissa Blair. Now, I was reading this with Nala. We were talking about it. I tried to contain myself to read this in an appropriate amount of time. And I think I was successful. Nala was right there with me. The reason that this is a disappointment for me, and I want to, again, be very clear that this is the reason that it's a disappointment for me. The trauma that our main character goes through and has to deal with in the first book is so well done, so well written, and I really loved that our main love interest let her deal with her trauma and didn't force any issues with her, didn't force anything romantically with her. And then we were led to believe something traumatic happened that in this book, obviously it didn't happen. And so I was confused for part of that as well. And I'm like, well, okay, what was the actual trauma? And I know everybody's trauma is different. I'm not trying to trauma shame anybody or anything like that. But I was like, I just kept thinking, well, was it actually that traumatic if that didn't happen? Or are you just kind of going overkill? So basically, our main character in the first book is dealing with alcoholism. She's drowning her sorrows, and really she's an assassin. So like, not something that she can do all the time, but when she's left to her own devices, that's what she does. She just drinks herself into oblivion. And I really liked watching her heal from her trauma and watching her overcome the alcoholism in the first book. It's kind of overlooked in the second book. Like, we've moved on. So I don't know how, if everything was as traumatic as she says it was, that we've simply moved on. And I don't understand how she delved so quickly into a romance and had these lofty expectations from a romance with her being so traumatized. So I feel like everything in this book was just a little out of character. Not to the point where I was like, oh, I hate this. And I think Nala had stronger reaction to these things than I did, because we talked about that. And I was like, well, I mean, it's not really bothering me. It's not something that's getting under my skin. Like, I'm irritated a little bit, but I can look past it, I guess. But that was missing from this, putting this one at a 3.5 instead of, the 5-star prediction I had for it after the first book. I still will continue with this series. There is a third book that is coming or has just recently been released, and I'm very excited to get into it. I want to see how this wraps up, and yeah, just a little disappointed. Let's talk about some surprises. Okay, so 2 that I want to talk about that really surprised me. Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valenti. I was not expecting to like this as much as I did. There is a very Stepford Wives vibe to this. It's one of those things that seems cozy, but is also really unsettling. I love that about Gothic literature. So whenever I heard that this was Gothic at its finest, or purple prose at its finest, I was like, I need to know. I need to know. And man, this takes a wicked and wild turn in the end that had me flummoxed. So I think everybody should read this. Just give it a chance. It's not exactly scary, even though it's classified as horror, but the horror is something very unexpected. And so I don't think it's like boo-ah scary. I think it leans a little bit more psychological, like a lot of Gothic horror does. But I absolutely loved this. And I'm finding that there are novellas out there that I can give 5 stars or just absolutely love. And I need more. I need more. I've read Shattered Spirits, this, Hellmouth. I need more like that. And then the next surprise has to be As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, because whoa. This one is kind of bonkers. It's very different from the first 2. So if you haven't read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, it's about a girl named Pip who kind of makes it her senior project to disprove that something happened. I think it was her friend's brother or something like that. Like, he gets accused for murdering his girlfriend. I don't remember how the relationship starts with the 2 characters in this book because it's been so long. But anyway, she has a true crime podcast. She's using this project to kind of further her podcast and it's like a senior project. So she's getting graded on it and everything like that. She goes to the police, she collects evidence, she does all of this stuff that she would do if she was trying to solve this murder. And things start to unravel. Things start to be revealed over time, and it kind of goes a little batshit, like in the first couple of books too. But it's really good. It's really entertaining. And in this one, Pip is kind of the victim this time. So she's done her true crime podcast to help other people. Now, when she becomes the subject of, the crime actually happening to her, what happens then? Who's going to look for you then? But I really enjoyed this series. This is a top-notch YA series that I will be holding on to in hopes that I can share it with my son here before too long. But yeah, I'm so, I love this series. I love this series. It's really good. If you like mystery thrillers, or if you like mixed media type stories, which I'm finding that I really do enjoy, especially when I can immersive read, because I really like when the interviews sound like interviews, the phone calls sound like phone calls, all of that stuff. But an excellent, excellent YA mystery thriller series. Okay, now for the hits. I have to give it to The Path of Thorns because I was so excited to be picking up another A.G. Slaughter because I read All the Murmuring Bones last year. This one delivers. Oh, dark, sinister fairy tale. This delivers hard. And I did hold back from giving it 5 stars because the ending is a little cheesy. It's a little cheesy. I did like it. But I'm holding it back from that 5-star rating just because of that ending. But if you are looking for a dark gothic fairy tale, this is the book for you. All the Murmuring Bones. I'd highly recommend you pick up either one of them. They are both fantastic, and I need more. And we have our 5-star prediction that has come through. Savage Legion by Matt Wallace. I had a feeling that this was going to be a 5-star. Now, I did give it 4.5, but the reason for that being there are things at the end of this book that I don't feel like are clear. I don't think we have a clear direction. I don't think that we have enough forward momentum to figure out where this should be going. So that's the only thing holding it back from a 5-star. The writing was excellent. The pacing was excellent. I really liked the characters in this. There are a few that I feel like some of them were a little stereotypical, but they fit the stereotype. And so I wasn't mad about it. But yes, I will be continuing with this month. I definitely plan to read the second one in November, if not both of them, but very, very excited for this. Or very excited for the rest of this series. Now, the one that everyone had to know was going to be a 5-star out of the park hit for me, Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. Now, I had been wanting to read this for so long. And I finally picked it up and was like, okay, let's just figure out this haunted spaceship gothic horror story. I need to know how they did all of these things that I love, and this delivers. It delivers hard. This was creepy. This was very creepy. And I think that if you find claustrophobia creepy, or if that is a fear of yours, this book will, oh man, it will deliver in every way for claustrophobia. Especially, I don't even want to talk about it because it's spoilery, and this is a horror, and you should go into it with all of the horror vibes, just like fresh in your brain, like needing to soak up all of the horror. If you can't tell, horror is obviously my favorite, but this is the ultimate haunted house story. It's the epitome of haunted house stories, and I feel like everyone should read it. If you are a haunted house fangirly, yeah. It's crazy, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Well, that is my video for today. Like, subscribe, do all the fun things, and if you guys would like, you can follow me on all of my social media if you follow the links down below. Bye!